Lincoln Station first. That's what the clerk is set up for. I'm trying to do what she tells me to do. Anybody objects, we can talk about it. All right, well, let's go ahead and come to order for the Lincoln Station Local Improvement District, number 0701. Today is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. It is 2:37 p.m. Let's come to order. Please rise and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. To the county attorney, Counselor, do we have certification for the agenda today?
You do, sir. The county attorney's office has reviewed all items on the agenda, and where necessary, the appropriate posting and notice have been provided. Otherwise, you have appropriate jurisdiction over all matters.
Thank you, Counselor. Do commissioners have any disclosures to make for items on this agenda?
I have none, thank you.
Nor I. Let's go to the consent agenda, 2A, which is approval of minutes from December 15th, 2022. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda minutes for December 15th, 2022. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And none are opposed. On to our regular agenda. We do have a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Local Improvement District, Lincoln Station for fiscal year 2024. Martha Marshall presenting for staff, I think. Maybe. I wonder if the county manager can help us out with that.
Let's see, we went into, I think they were thinking I'd go at the end, so give us 2 minutes, we'll get them.
Okay. Thanks so much, Doug. And folks, if you'll just have patience with us, we'll go grab our budget staff, and they'll be here to present shortly. Ms. Marshall, thank you for joining us today. You are teed up and ready to go to present on Lincoln Station Local Improvement District.
Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Martha Marshall for Budget Staff. I am before you this afternoon with resolutions to adopt the budget, appropriate spending. Is this Woodmore Mountain that we're talking about?
Can we do Lincoln Station
Lincoln
first,
Station,
ma'am?
Okay. So for Lincoln Station, we are just going to adopt a budget and appropriate spending for that budget. So there are two resolutions before you. I don't have a presentation specifically for Lincoln Station. That will come with the presentation of the resolutions for the county and LEA.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Colleagues, you have the packet for Lincoln Station. Are there any questions on the packet? Are there any questions for staff?
I have none.
And I have none either.
Nor I. And I have no questions also. So let's go ahead and move to public comment on this matter. Is there anyone who would like to come before the board and present public comment on the subject of the Lincoln Station Local Improvement District and budget for fiscal year 2024? Seeing none. Troy, do we have anybody online who'd like to speak on these two resolutions?
Thank you, Commissioner. I have no online comment.
Okay. Bringing it back to the board for additional discussion and action.
I have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Local Improvement District number 07-01, Lincoln Station, for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2024 and ending the last day of December 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are no opposed. Budget is adopted. We have, is there a motion for the second resolution, appropriating funds?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Local Improvement District number 7-01, Lincoln Station, for the fiscal year 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second for the resolution appropriating funds for the local improvement district. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are no opposed. Funds are appropriated. That concludes the business for the Lincoln Station Local Improvement District number 0701. We are adjourned. And then as soon as the clerk resets, we will go to Woodmore. Guys, this is going pretty quick. Do you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance again?
We've done it.
We'll move past that then. Excellent. Welcome to the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District. It is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. Time is 2:44 p.m. Call to order. County Attorney, do we have certification for the agenda today?
Yes, sir, you do. The County Attorney's Office reviewed all items on the agenda. You have appropriate jurisdiction, and where necessary, appropriate posting and notice were provided.
Thank you, Counselor. Do commissioners have any disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have
I
none,
have
thank
none.
you.
Nor do I. Let's move along to the consent agenda, which is the minutes from July 25th, 2023. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I have a motion to approve the request in item A of the consent agenda.
Second.
There is a motion and the second on adopting the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Consent agenda is approved. Moving along to item 3A, which is moving along to three resolutions, which I believe will be addressed by Martha Marshall from staff, summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget, appropriating funds, and then levying general property taxes for the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District. Martha Marshall presenting for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Martha Marshall for Budget Staff. So this afternoon, we have three resolutions before you in order to adopt a budget for Woodmore Mountain and appropriate funding, and then this time we'll also levy a mill levy to cover the expenditures in the budget and the appropriation. And once again, I don't have a presentation for this. The presentation will come with the adoption of the county budget.
Okay. Thank you, Director. Any questions for Director Marshall at this time?
I have none.
And I have none either.
I have none either. Is there anyone so moving along to public comment, is there anyone from the public that would like to make comment on the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District? And seeing none in the room, Troy, do we have anybody online who would like to provide public comment?
And I have no online comment.
Thank you, Troy. Bringing it back to the board for the three resolutions, is there further discussion or any motions for the board to consider?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2024 and ending on the last day of December 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, is there any other further discussion? Seeing none. There is a motion and a second. Any other, pardon me. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There are none opposed. Resolution is adopted.
I have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the fiscal year 2024.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There are none opposed. Resolution is approved.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2023 to help defray the costs for the Douglas County Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District for the 2024 fiscal year.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. There are none opposed. Resolution is adopted. This concludes the agenda for the Woodmore Mountain General Improvement District on January 9th, 2024. We are adjourned. And we will go to our land use and public hearing meeting once we get the thumbs up from the clerk. Do we need a break or anything?
I don't.
Do you?
I can keep on rolling.
Okay.
Good to go?
Yep.
All right. Okay, good afternoon. This is Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. Land use meeting and public hearing of the Douglas County Board of County Commissioners. Time now is 2:49. Let's come to order. To the county attorney, is there certification for the agenda?
Yes, there's certification, sir. County Attorney's Office has reviewed all items on the agenda. You have appropriate jurisdiction over those items, and where necessary, the appropriate posting and publication have been made.
Thank you, Counselor. Do commissioners have any disclosures for items on this agenda today?
I have none.
And I have none either. Normally, item 2 is the land use meeting agenda items. Today, we have no land use agenda items before us, and we will be going straight to item 3, public hearing agenda items, beginning with 3A, substantial amendment to the 2015 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan. Jennifer Eby presenting for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon, Jen.
Jennifer Eby, representing Community Development. The request before you today is approval of the substantial amendment to the 2015 Annual Action Plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program. The 2015 plan was required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, to accept funds for programs benefiting low and moderate income residents. On June 28, 2016, the Board of County Commissioners voted to opt out of the CDBG program, But in order to close out the grant, funds must be either fully spent or returned to HUD. As part of the CDBG program, the Douglas County Housing Partnership, or DCHP, was awarded down payment assistance funds from 2005 through 2015, which were used to provide loans. And as those payments were made on those loans, the funds were considered CDBG program income and are designated for use in the revolving loan fund, which I'm going to refer to as RLF. For DCHP to make additional down payment assistance loans. So because of current market conditions for the last 2 years, because they've been unfavorable to first-time home buyers, as a result, DCHP has been unable to provide any down payment assistance loans, and because of this and higher than expected number of loan payoffs, the revolving loan fund has grown to a balance of just over $1 million. In order to award those funds for a different purpose, if the board chooses to do that, HUD requires that the funds be reallocated through a substantial amendment process to our current 2015 annual action plan. With the Board of County Commissioners' approval, $850,000 in funds can be shifted from the revolving loan fund for down payment assistance to land acquisition to support the Ridgegate Senior Project. This amendment for the Ridgegate Senior Project will continue to advance the CDBG housing priority as the down payment assistance program did. That'll be done through the development of 101 affordable senior housing units, which will be available at 60% area median income, developed as part of the Ridgegate Senior Project. It is staff's recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners approve the substantial amendment to the 2015 Annual Action Plan for submission to HUD, as the request conforms with county approval standards and policies. I do have Artie Lael, who's the Deputy Director of the Housing Partnership, available here to answer project questions. This concludes my presentation, and I am also available to answer questions.
All right, bringing it back to the board, I'd be happy to hear from Artie before we go to questions, but before we do that, do we have any questions for Ms. Evie?
I have none.
I have none.
Okay. Hey, Artie, would you like to come forward?
Hi, Artie Lael, Deputy Director of the Douglas County Housing Partnership and resident of Douglas County. The Ridgegate Senior Project is a project we are doing in partnership with Coble and Company. It'll be the second project we've done with Coble in the Ridgegate area. This project is located in the Couplet. If you guys are familiar with the land development plans of Lone Tree, there's an area where Ridgegate Parkway splits and becomes, there's a centerpiece of land they call the Couplet. This will be the first development within that Couplet. And this is the first phase of that development, which is 101 units. The overall project will have over 160. There's a second phase of senior that'll be going in there in a few years. This is a low-income housing tax credit property, so CHAFA has already awarded this project competitive tax credits and bonds to go with that. Our contribution as a partner is to provide them this $850,000 that they need to make up a gap in their financing. Tax credits only yield so much and bonds can only be borrowed so much, and then the project becomes financially infeasible. Our contribution here, using the county's CDBG funds, if you so allow us to, would actually pair up with state funds in excess of $3 million to fund this project. So our intention is to move the money with permission from the county, and then this project will break ground in about 60 days.
Okay, thanks, Artie. Questions for Mr. Leal or Ms. Evie?
You know, Mr. Lil, I'd like to thank you for what you do for our low-income residents that need to find a place to live. For just the few months that I was on the Douglas County Housing Partnership, I was amazed at when you would talk about a project, you would get excited about how many people were going to be served. And I know that you have the best interests of the people at heart, yet you have an amazing ability to understand dollars and financing and how to best put those packages together. I think if I read this correctly, the reason this money is available, it was really supposed to be for down income assistance. But because houses are so expensive, first-time buyers really don't have the opportunity to access this funding because it doesn't get them anywhere near to closing on a house. Is that right?
That's correct. The interest rates also being what they are today has widened that gap for low and moderate income purchasers as well.
So I think this is an excellent opportunity to reprogram these dollars so that we can keep even more people housed. And, it's amazing how many seniors I know that are looking for a place to live and say I'm 600 on a list. So thank you for working on this project and making housing available in the future for some people.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I would echo those sentiments, and your passion for the low-income community and ensuring that there's workforce housing in Douglas County is really significant. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So I've got a couple questions. First one to Jen. Jen, but this doesn't get us back into the Community Development Block Grant Program with HUD, does it?
No, it does not. We would be in the same position that we're in. We're no longer accepting ongoing entitlement funding through the CDBG program through HUD. We do still have a remaining balance for the revolving loan fund. It's just over $200,000, and those would still remain available for down payment assistance loans after we move the funding for Ridgegate Senior Apartments.
Okay. My next question pertains to a part of your presentation, Jen, but quite frankly, I'm going to let you guys treat this like a jump ball, and you decide how you want to answer it, please. But so we will make this decision, but then this decision will be presented to HUD, and that presentation to HUD, is that for approval? Meaning, can HUD come back to us and say, nice try, Douglas County, but no? Or do we believe that this is within the approval criteria that for HUD that it will be administratively approved?
So my understanding from conversations with HUD, and we've done substantial amendments to our plans in the past, the process is that we, once if the commissioners approve this substantial amendment, we will forward that to HUD. Honestly, as long as we've gone through the proper process, that's what they're going to review. They will allow and provide us with the approval to move forward with this activity. And then we'll be able to fund it and move forward with the land acquisition.
Okay, cool. That answers my questions. Back to my colleagues. Any further questions on this matter to staff and Mr. Leal?
I have none.
And I have none either.
All right, well, thank you very much. Let's move on to public comment and open the floor for public comment on this matter of the substantial amendment to the CDBG funding. Any member of any residents who would like to make comment? Seeing none in the room, Troy, do we have anybody online that would like to make comment on this matter?
I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Bringing it back to the board, any further discussion, or is there any action the board would propose?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve a substantial amendment to the 2015 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor with a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 And I'm an aye, and there is no opposition. Substantial amendment made.
Thank you.
Thank you, Artie. Appreciate it. Always good to see you here, buddy.
Likewise.
Our next item on the agenda is 3B, Castle Pines Village Filing Number 37, Second Amendment. Brett Thomas presenting for staff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brett Thomas representing Planning Services. The item before you is Castle Pines Village filing number 37, Second Amendment, minor development. Project number is SB 2023-046. Dan Madison of Manhard Consulting is here as the applicant. The applicant's requesting approval of a minor development plat to subdivide a 3.4-acre parcel into 4 single-family lots. Proposed single-family lots range from 2/3 of an acre to 1 acre in size. The intent of the minor development process is to provide a streamlined review process for creation of 10 or fewer single-family residential lots. The minor development process begins with submittal of an application. Following a review period by referral agencies and the public, request is heard by the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners. No public comments were received. All referral agency comments are outlined in the referral agency response report, as well as the referral letters attached to the staff report. Planning Commission considered the applicant's request at a public hearing on January 8th. No members of the public spoke in response to the application. No significant issues were noted. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the minor development, subject to the 4 conditions proposed by staff by a vote of 5-0. The site is located within Castle Pines Village, between US Highway 85 and Interstate 25. The site, outlined in red, is located within the northern portion of Castle Pines Village Plan Development. As seen on the aerial, the site's adjacent to Country Club at Castle Pines Golf Course. Castle Pines PD was approved in 1984 for approximately 2,800 lots, of which approximately 1,900 lots are platted. 2007, the board approved a minor development for Castle Pines Village filing 37 for 1 single-family residential lot. In 2022, the board approved the First Amendment for 10 residential lots and 1 superblock lot. That superblock lot, Lot 1A, is the subject of this request. As depicted on the slide, minor development proposes 4 single-family residential lots. Site access is from existing Gulf Estates Point, and no new easements are proposed. This photo looks northeast into the site from the end of Gulf Estates Point. This view looks southeast into the site from the same point. The approval standards for a minor development request are set forth in Section 603 of the subdivision resolution and listed on this slide. Staff's assessment of the approval standards are discussed in detail within pages 7 through 10 of the staff report. Staff evaluated the minor development in accordance with Article 6 of the subdivision resolution. Should the board find that the approval standards for the minor development are met, the following proposed conditions should be considered for inclusion in the motion. Condition number 1, prior to recordation of the minor development final plat, technical corrections to the plat exhibit shall be made to the satisfaction of Douglas County. Condition number 2, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and the signs shall take all reasonable care to watch for historic resources, paleontological resources, and other cultural history resources, and shall immediately notify Douglas County in the event of such discovery. Condition number 3, during construction activity within the development, the applicant, its successors, and the signs shall conduct a survey of the property for active raptor nesting sites if any earth moving will take place between February 15th and August 31st. Condition number 4, Colorado Parks and Wildlife literature shall be made available to prospective homeowners concerning possible presence of wildlife and shall be available at all times. And condition number 5, all commitments and promises made by the applicant or the applicant's representative during the public hearing and/or agreed to in writing and included in the public record have been relied upon by the Board of County Commissioners in approving the application. Therefore, such approval is conditioned upon the applicant's full satisfaction of all such commitments and promises. Section 604.08 of the subdivision resolution sets forth the parameters for the board's determination on minor development requests as noted on this slide. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for questions regarding the staff report. Otherwise, Dan Madison is available to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for Brett?
I have none, thank you.
And I have none either.
All right, I have none either. Applicant is welcome to approach and present.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Dan Madison, M-A-D-I-S-O-N. Address of business is 7600 East Orchard Road. I am a civil engineer with Manhard Consulting representing the application. And thank you for hearing our application today, and thank you to staff for presenting today. This is really a continuation of the First Amendment, completing out the cul-de-sac that was designed into the 4 remaining lots that are planned for this area. I don't have any further presentation, but I'm certainly able to answer any questions you might have.
Cool. Okay, questions for the applicant?
I don't have any. I thought the packet was pretty concise, and Mr. Thomas gave us some good information. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say in review of the packet, I believe that all of my questions have been answered, so thank you.
It is nice to get a land use question before us that is, I mean, it's really pretty simple. It's 4 lots on an existing cul-de-sac that's been planned for development for a while. So I really have no questions for the applicant. It looks pretty straightforward to me. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. At this time, any further questions back to staff from the board?
I have none.
You know, I do have just a comment with regard to a colleague that we greatly appreciate, who is Matt Buster. Not only was he an individual that appeared before us many times and did a great job presenting, but he was also my next-door neighbor. So I was incredibly saddened and heartened to hear of his passing, and we extend our deepest condolences to him and his family. Yep.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner. Okay, let's go ahead and turn to public comment. Is there anyone present who would like to come forward and speak on public comment of this minor development plat amendment? Seeing none in the room. Troy, do we have anybody online that would like to speak on this matter?
I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you, Troy. In that case, I'll bring it back to the board for any further comment, discussion, or action.
Did you want to ask about the conditions?
Oh, very good. Thank you, Commissioner. To the applicant, sir, if you could please approach again. There were the 5 conditions noted. Of course, we can represent them if needed, but do you accept the 5 conditions?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Applicant has accepted the 5 conditions. Let's bring it back to the board for further action, discussion, or comment.
I have a motion to approve Castle Pines Village filing number 37, Second Amendment minor development plat, because it does meet all of the approval criteria with 5 conditions as presented. Project file SB 2023-046.
Second.
All right, very good. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have none.
And I have none either.
All right. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. And there are none opposed. It is approved. Moving on to item 3C, a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for Douglas County for the fiscal year of 2024. Martha Marshall, Budget Director, presenting for staff.
Just a moment, Commissioners. I'm going to pull up my presentation.
You betcha.
And while she's doing that, might I ask for a 1-minute recess?
Commissioner, this recess sound okay? Yeah, let's go ahead and take a break, and Martha will give you extra time there. Accommodating the quick break, let's come back to order. Director Marshall.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Martha Marshall for Budget Staff. This afternoon, I'm going to be talking pretty much about agenda item 6 through H together, and I have a presentation to kick us off. So let's get to it. This is kind of historic in several ways. So good afternoon, Commissioners. The budget before you this afternoon is a culmination of a lot of hours dedicated by staff throughout the county. And we've had many work sessions with the board, so I'd like to thank you very much for the commitment to this process. And so I say I have a short presentation before we get to the resolutions. The budget process is a long one, and this is kind of a visual of what we do, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because you are very aware of it. But we do start the process in May generally. This past year, with all the uncertainty that took place in at the state level and legislation and thing, we actually did start projections in January of last year. So it's been a very different year for us. But I would like to call attention to some kind of key dates in this timeline. We start working with the board in September in preparation for presenting that preliminary budget, which is due by October 15th. And then we generally have about 2 months before we go into adoption. And this year, I do have a slide that explains why we are doing this on January 9th. So during the special legislative session that was held in mid-November last year, Senate Bill 23B-001, which dealt with the 2023 residential property taxes, shifted our deadlines, which is why we are here today on January 9th, 2024, adopting the budget. This is a very unusual timeline for this year, and I just wanted to make sure that I provided some information so folks understood why this is being done after December 31st, 2023. The board's policy manual provides the county manager with guidance for the development of the county's annual budget. The 2024 proposed budget is compliant with all 13 criteria in Management Limitation 3.3, Financial Planning and Budget. Some of the key components I'd like to call out is that the budget does not deviate materially from the board's priorities, risk financial jeopardy, and relies on 2- and 5-year forecasts. The budget provides adequate disclosure of revenue and expenditures. The budget maintains adequate reserves per county policy, and the budget adheres to state and county fiscal laws and policies also. The 2024 proposed budget is $671.8 million. The operating portion of the budget is $266.2 million. This represents an 11.3% increase, or I'm going to say a lot of numbers, sorry, $27.1 million of an increase over the 2023 operating budget. We do gauge our growth based on the state's TABOR calculation, which is population growth plus CPI, and that equals 8.6% this year. Part of the reason for exceeding this is the board's prioritizing public safety by adding 65 positions over the last 14 months, and that equated to roughly $10.2 million. The budget for one-time initiatives is $318.8 million. 74% of this is for transportation. It also includes $52.9 million of expenditures funded by state and federal sources. This year, 18.6% of the county's mill levy is being redirected for tax relief. That's 3.679 mills, or $37.8 million. This will be distributed through checks to property owners who pay their taxes in full by the deadline. And we're going to accomplish this in 2 batches. The first batch will be sent after full payments are received by the April 30th deadline. And then the second batch will be sent after full payment is received by the June 15th deadline. And there'll be a resolution outlining the criteria for these checks that will be presented to the board at an upcoming business meeting. The county has no debt. This budget does not increase fees or taxes, and this budget is balanced for all funds and meets all statutory and county policy requirements. We have a couple of changes from the 2024 preliminary budget. We added a 1% merit and tier movement increase. HR recommended that we move our merit to 4% to make sure that we stay competitive in the marketplace. We also added 9 school resource officers to unincorporated Douglas County schools. And this really, with the passage of Douglas County School District mill levy in November, this is really the driving force for why we're doing this, because that mill levy that was approved by voters included funding for school security. So Douglas County School District is adding 7 school resource officers. There are 2 other schools, one a charter and one a private school, that approached the sheriff's office to add a resource officer in each of those schools. So with the addition of these 9 officers, it brings the total program to 42 school resource officers in Douglas County's program. So I just wanted to highlight some of the guiding principles. This is an important component to the development of the budget. And these principles are to avoid raising taxes and fees, relying upon realistic revenue forecasts, maintaining stable reserves, improving the quality of services provided to our community, budgeting for 1 year, managing for 2, and planning for 5. I just had a flashback of Roger Partridge. So it was kind of a nice experience. And then we also match ongoing revenues to ongoing expenditures. This slide shows how the 2024 proposed budget aligns with the board's priorities. The board's core priorities are the foundation for the development of the budget. These priorities, along with input from the public, inform decisions in this budget. The budget book contains all new requests and projects with explanations, and the proposed budget is online and includes descriptions of all one-time initiatives as well as increases in the operating budget for anyone who is interested. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions before we get into the resolutions.
Thank you, Martha. Obviously, Board, we've been through a number of meetings to get to this point, but any questions for Martha at this time?
Yes, Martha, that was a great presentation, culminating in lots of hours. I didn't get my pen out in time to write down the Tabor number that you said population and growth was 8 point something?
It is, let me just make sure that I read it properly. It is in the budget book. It is on the first page of the transmittal letter. But it is 8.6%.
Okay, thank you. Great job. Thank you so much with all the ups and downs and changes and the just not knowing what you could base your budget on. So thank you for your patience, and this is a good product.
Thank you.
So Martha, incredible job as always. It's always remarkable to me how much work and time goes into the budget, and I have such memories of Roger as well, and he would often say, make sure to check in with Doug on budget, see how things are going, and you all do such a great job. Really appreciate, the overarching highlights around our commitment to public safety. And I think that with the addition of a new sheriff and his strong passion around keeping Douglas County safe, I believe that this Board of County Commissioners is reflecting our core priorities there. One question that I would have for you, for those that may be listening in, can you provide a little bit more detail and depth around the design and construction funding for McCanta?
For McCanta,
Yeah.
I am not going to pretend that I'm an expert on that. I would defer to, to Parks for that. Is there something more specific I might be able to answer?
Sure. Why don't you just walk us through the process for approval, the total amount that's being allocated for design and construction, and how that's moving forward through the budget?
So the open space, so that this is funded through the Parks and Open Space Sales and Use Tax Fund. And each of so there's really kind of three components that are funded, well, maybe I should say 4 or 5 components that are funded out of that Parks and Open Space Fund, one of which is Parks. And each has an advisory committee that helps kind of vet projects that staff is thinking about. And so I believe this went through the Parks Advisory Board and to do this. I also am somewhat aware that this is more of a passive recreational project, which also qualifies for open space dollars.
So thank you for that. I might ask our county manager to provide some additional detail.
Yeah, on the project is described on page 120 of the budget book, and it's out of the Conservation Trust Fund monies, which is lottery monies, sales tax, and says it's continuation of a project that began last year and continues for a couple of years, of approximately 12 miles of trail in that McCanta, including trailers, shelters, and restrooms. So that's kind of what it is. As we continue with the Parks, Open Space, Historic Resources Plan, I think a lot of that is very fungible. It's subject to all sorts of things. I think we all understand that.
Great. Well, and I think that's the emphasis that no doubt we're really excited to have seen the passage of the ballot measure providing $330 million for Parks, Open Space, and Historic through the 15-year life of that measure. But a big component of that, of course, is really having a master plan around Parks, Open Space, and Historic, prioritizing projects, getting those recommendations through the advisory boards, but ensuring that those advisory boards are then making those recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners for final approval. So going forward, I know the hope is that we continue to vision around that master plan and see how those projects get discussed and approved by the board.
Okay, cool. Any further questions for Director Marshall?
I have none.
My question, Martha, and I wonder if you could go back in your slide. I'd like you to pull up the slide that had the tax relief savings that this budget affords. Okay, so out of the mill levy that the county levies, we are going to do a refund that's going to amount to $37.8 million being returned back to the taxpayers via the property tax assessment.
So yes, and just to kind of delve into it a little bit more, what the board has implemented here is taking from various areas like general fund, road and bridge, to go ahead and provide this tax relief to the counties, or to the citizens. It did not come from human services or school safety, so it didn't come from public safety components. So, so the purpose is to go ahead and provide tax relief to property owners in the county.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut refund checks. You talked about being split into two pieces. You said either those who pay in full at the first deadline will get the first refunds. Those who do legally wait until the legal deadline, they will get refund checks June, July?
July, yes.
July, okay. Do we have an idea? I mean, who's going to make use of that first? Or what property owners are going to make use of that first deadline? Do we have an idea on what that would look like in terms of the county population?
Yes. So there's really 3 dates that the treasurer collects property taxes. So there's one at the end of February, there's one at the end of April, and then there's one in the middle of June. That end of February is the first payment if you're going to split your taxes into two. So you would pay half in February and half by June 15th. The April 30th deadline is for those folks that want to pay their property taxes in full. And those are generally folks that don't have mortgages, because mortgage companies will do the first and the second payment.
Okay.
So if a property owner pays their taxes in full by the April 30th, then we will go ahead and return those monies to them in May.
Okay.
Then the others that generally, and that's probably somewhere in the 25% range of our property owners. Then 75% really have mortgages that go ahead and utilize that first and second payment.
Okay.
And so, does that give you enough information?
It does, and it does bring to mind perhaps a follow-on task for my colleagues and I to consider, that perhaps we do messaging about folks paying in full in the April deadline in order to afford, an opportunity to receive that refund check in May. Maybe that's messaging that we adopt and we work with our public information officer to push out. I mean, obviously not something for right now. Right now, we're focused on the budget, but just as a follow-on task that I think I'd like to plant the seed with everybody. We could discuss that later, obviously. I think that answered my questions. Martha, colleagues, any further questions for Director Marshall?
I have none.
And I have none either.
Okay. With no questions left for staff, let's go ahead and open the floor for any citizen comment. If you'd like to make comment on this matter of actually any one of these items that deal with the budget, please come forward, state your name, and tell us where you're from. Yes, sir. Please come forward, state your name, and tell us where you're from.
I'm Ephraim Glass. I'm from Roxborough. A couple of you guys know me already. I just have a very quick question, probably for Director Marshall. For the tax relief, why didn't you guys just do a tax credit rather than sending out refunds?
Okay, sir, if that's your only question.
That's my only question.
Okay, go ahead, have a seat. Let's first go to Director Marshall, but then actually I think there was a decision made by the board there that we'd probably want to address to answer your question. Director Marshall.
Well, we are aware that the amount, for those that pay with through their mortgage company through escrow, it's highly likely that your mortgage company will round up, and those citizens will not likely see the credit. Unfortunately, Douglas County, even though it represents 18.6% of our mill levy, it's not a large portion of most property owners' taxes. And so it would be highly unlikely that a mortgage company would really flow that through their calculation. This way, our citizens actually get to see the work that we're doing and feel it, and then they'll be able to use that money how they see fit.
Okay. Board, would you like to, would anybody on the board like to make a comment pertaining to the resident's question? I would like to make a comment. It was important for me that we pursue a refund check approach. Since I've been on the board, we've had a tax credit every year for the last 3 years. And I've had to work with many, many residents to, show them how that tax credit was applied. Sometimes even sitting at kitchen tables, looking at their property tax statement. And given the increase in property values that are resulting really into this huge, bump in revenue that we're passing on. We want to pass it back to the people. For me personally, I didn't think it was appropriate to do that as a tax credit that just might get lost in the bigger shuffle. And I thought it was far more appropriate for us to pursue a policy where, no, we issue a refund check and we give it to you. And listen, I trust the people of Douglas County. It's their money. We have decided that those additional funds are not going to be required to run the county. That's the people's money. I'd rather give them a refund check and apply it to the escrow on your mortgage. Put it in a savings account to pay next year's taxes. Go buy a TV. That's not for me to dictate to individuals. So I felt very strongly that, we needed to cut a refund check and keep the faith with the people of Douglas County that we're only using their money to run the county and no more.
So, Mr. Glass, thank you for being here. I did vote, I was outvoted 2-1 to put the savings in what was due in the bill that'll go out in January. Because if people are having to scrape together money to make their house payment, to make their tax bill, it seemed like to me it was better to reduce what they had to scrape up to pay than to keep their money for 3 or 4 months and then get interest on their money and then send them back their money.
Oh, man, you already got your shot. Hang on a second. Commissioner Layden, do you have a desire to speak to this matter as posed by the citizen? No? Okay.
I do not, but would be curious to ensure that there's no other citizen comment.
Yeah. Mr. Glass, please hang on. Is there any other residents who would like to make citizen comment? I see none in the room. Troy, do we have any residents who would like to make citizen comment online?
I have no online comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Glass, go ahead. Yeah, come on up. Colleagues, if there's no objection to hearing from Mr. Glass again,
No objection.
come on up, sir.
I should probably have said earlier that I'm on the Roxborough Village Metro District Board, so I'm well aware of trying to balance credits and make sure people know that they're getting their value out of the taxes that they pay. The only quick question I have is, do you know the cost for sending out all of those checks versus just having a credit?
Okay, sir, you have 2 minutes and 35 seconds left. Do you have any other questions or any other comments?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Have a seat. And Director Marshall, I think we had discussed that during our strategy. Can you please address that question?
Yes, we did discuss this. We're going to send out about 125,000 checks at a cost of about 90 cents per check, or a little over 100,000.
Okay, and how do we anticipate sourcing and paying for that cost?
It is expected that interest on the money that we collected will pay for that.
Okay. Okay. All right. We ran through citizen comments. Let's bring it back to the board. Any further discussion? Any further comments? Or is the board ready to take action on the items before us?
Nothing further for me. If there's nothing other from my colleague, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the County of Douglas for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2024 and ending on the last day of December 2024.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second on item 3C. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Resolution approved.
I have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the County of Douglas, Colorado for the fiscal year 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Resolution is approved.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve a resolution levying general property tax for the year 2023 to help defray the costs of government for the County of Douglas, Colorado for the 2024 fiscal year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the resolution? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Resolution is adopted.
I have a motion to approve a resolution summarizing revenues and expenditures and adopting a budget for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of January 2024 and ending on the last day of December 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Resolution is approved.
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to approve a resolution appropriating funds for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the fiscal year 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Resolution is approved.
I have a motion to approve a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2023 to help defray the costs of government for the Douglas County Law Enforcement Authority for the 2024 fiscal year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. None opposed. Resolution is approved. Holy hand grenades, I think we just did the budget for Douglas County, Colorado for 2024.
Yes,
Director
we did.
Marshall, thank you very much for all your work helping us through this and doing the heavy lifting. And I have no other business for this public hearing before the board. We will adjourn the next land use meeting. Public hearing will be held on Tuesday, January 23rd, 2024 at 2:30 p.m. Thank you all so much. We are adjourned.